The battles of Antietam and Gettysburg were both major turning points in the Civil War. Both of these battles had everyone assuming that the North would win the war. After each of these battles, the North became stronger and the South slowly started to disintegrate. While the North was being built up, confidently, materialistically, and in population, the South was losing everything that they had tried to build up over time. All of their confidence and supplies were dwindling, and there was nothing left to do about it. Before the battles of Antietam and Gettysburg, the Civil War was very stagnant on both sides. The North and South were both somewhat equal. But as the South started moving upwards into the North, all of their home supplies were disappearing. The South's land also was getting destroyed quite a bit considering all the battles being fought on it. They were losing everything, but most importantly, they were losing their confidence. While the South lost all of their sureness in winning, the North took control of the war. The Battle of Antietam. General Lee of the South had confidence in his troops to be able to do well in any of the upcoming battles. He felt he had a chance, which prompted him to write up the Special Order 119 to give other commanding leaders. The order told in detail of his plans to attack Harper's Ferry. If he won this battle, it would convince foreign governments to continue to fund them, the possibility to get more border states to join them, and would most importantly be a victory for the Confederates invading the North. However, Lee's order was intercepted by 2 Union soldiers, and the plot was soon received by General McClellan on September 13, 1862. He then planned to ambush General Lee on his way to ambush them. September 17th, General Lee would get a surprise that he essentially never could quite recover from. This would then lead to be the first battle on Northern territory, and to be known as one of the bloodiest days in history. By the end of the battle, though, it was said to be inconclusive. More ended up being lost than gained, as General McClellan reported on September 18th. The loss of the rebels at South Mountain cannot be ascertained with accuracy, but a greater number of their dead were seen on the field than our men. It was not unreasonable to suppose that their loss was greater than ours. This being not only said, but observed, as Lee struggled to rebuild his weak, hungry troops, it was now obvious that the North had a vantage point. Lincoln's changing viewpoints led him to decide he was going to find a way to emancipate the slaves. The Secretary of State, Seward, convinced Lincoln to wait to proclaim anything until the North had won a clear military victory. So Lincoln took Seward's words of wisdom and waited until September 1862 when the Union had won a clear military victory at Antietam, giving Lincoln the perfect chance to inform the states of his plan of the Emancipation Proclamation. Lincoln told the states that they had until January 1st of 1863 to return to the Union without any trouble, and they would get to keep their slaves. Just as President Lincoln said, he announced his final Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, New Year's Day of 1863.
Although the Emancipation Proclamation did not free all slaves instantly, it showed an extreme importance symbolically. The government had its first step in the publicizing commitment itself to freedom of slaves, and the military was committed to accepting blacks into the military forces as well as protecting them.
The Battle of Antietam was the gateway, the perfect opportunity for Lincoln to deliver the Emancipation Proclamation, a huge step in the government's backing to the freeing of slaves.
Rations were scarcely issued and the men about preparing supper, when rumors that the enemy had been encountered that day near Gettysburg absorbed every other interest, and very soon orders came to march forthwith to Gettysburg.
Joshua Lawrence. The Battle of Gettysburg began the 1st of July in 1863. This battle was a key battle in the Union's overall victory of the Civil War. It began when General Robert E. Lee marched his troops from Virginia to Pennsylvania in hopes of gaining the first Confederate victory on Union soil. His motives for attacking were quite clear. For one, his army was starving, and he believed that there would be a better chance for them to obtain food and supplies by crossing into Union territory. He also believed a victory for the Confederacy on Union soil would lead to some prominent European countries' recognition of the Confederacy as its own separate state. General Lee and Jefferson Davis also hoped that this would make the Union weary of war and the Union would strive for peace. At the end of the battle, more than 51,000 Confederate and Union soldiers were wounded, missing, or dead. Many of those who died laid in makeshift graves along the battlefield. The Confederate troops would be battling some soldiers from the Union, who were under the control of General George G. Meade. After the first 2 bloody days, General Lee ordered his last attempt to gain victory in Gettysburg. His last attempt was called Pickett's Charge. After the Union managed to withstand General Lee's last attempt at Pickett's Charge, General Lee decided to retreat his troops. This was the end of the bloody Gettysburg campaign. This victory for the Union was a great one, but a costly one. There were an estimated 23,000 casualties for the Union and an estimated 25,000 casualties for the Confederacy. Lincoln then gave one of his most famous speeches, the Gettysburg Address.
Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this.
President Lincoln, 1863. Why was this such a key battle, you may ask? Well, it weakened the Southern Army to a point where they were not going to make any more offensive tactics. They were going to play it safe and fight on the defensive side again, like how they started. It also caused a decrease in war bonds bought to fund the South's military. There was absolutely no funding now, and the South's chances for victory in the Civil War were said to have gone down by 15% by the end of 1863. Now you can see why the battles of Antietam and Gettysburg were such key events in the Union's victory in the Civil War. They weakened the South's military and confidence and brought about a shift to Union victory.